Ed Orgeron, of course, taking over last year with a positive vibe. The kids seem to really play hard for him, as they did with Les Miles as well. I know that it's been a while, but Brandon, I'd like to get your thoughts on Ed Orgeron being in place as the guy in charge at LSU with, of course, the high expectations that this program has each and every year.
I think that when they hired Orgeron in the middle of last season after Les Miles was fired after the Auburn game, I think all the players were revamped and they were primed and ready to finish the season strong. And they ended up finishing the season 6-2, which is decent, with losses to Alabama and Florida, who those two teams eventually played in the SEC championship. But I think that coming into this year, Orgeron and the entire team, they just have those expectations to hopefully get back to the SEC championship and win the Western Division and possibly make it the college football playoff, especially with Orgeron bringing on Matt Canada from Pittsburgh and having Dave Aranda as the defensive coordinator. This team is primed and ready to make a run, and it could surprise a lot of people.
Brandon, what I'm seeing is the second best team in the SEC, and I think it's extremely close. Obviously, Alabama has separated itself from the pack. LSU and Auburn kind of vied for that second position for a number of years, but Alabama is far out in front of everyone unless it's proven different this fall. But LSU, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, Auburn, all in the mix, kind of chasing Alabama. But if you look at the talent on hand, if this quarterback situation could be stabilized, I'm just with Darius Geis at running back, with what you bring back on defense and at running or at wide receiver, I think it possibly is the second best team in the SEC with a possible nod to Georgia. I think they're going to be much improved with Jacob Eason with a season under his belt and bringing back Sony Michel and Nick Chubb at running back, 9 starters back on defense. It's going to be, yes, very intriguing to see who can challenge Bama first in the West, and then if there's a possible challenger out of the East that can finally make this a decent championship game for the first time since 2012. So if you have any thoughts about LSU or anyone else kind of giving that challenge to Bama for the first time in a while.
Really, I think I'm with you. I think it's really down to LSU and Auburn in the West to challenge Alabama. If you look at Auburn, they got Jarrett Stidham, the transfer quarterback from Baylor, who went to a junior college and was rated as a 5-star. And he shined yesterday at Auburn spring game. I think he has to be their starter. I'm not going to get into Auburn too much, but I think it comes down to LSU and Auburn to challenge Bama. I think that as for Alabama, I think they'll be great again like they always are. I got to give credit to Nick Saban. He's the best coach in college football. And the way his process works is tremendous. I think that Jalen Hurts will be in the running for the Heisman. I think their offense is going to look really good. Their defense is always pretty stout, and it will be again this year. So I think that LSU, Auburn, and Alabama, it'll come down to those three for the West. And I don't know who's going to take it. I would hope it would be LSU, but with LSU's defense being good, I think race, especially at LSU's quarterback situation. I mean, if Etling can get it together, and he's got a problem being accurate throwing the ball deep. If he can fix that, LSU can be good on offense, especially at the quarterback situation. And with Darius Geis, if you watch Alabama and LSU play, Alabama just stops LSU's running backs like it's nothing, especially with Fournette. And they did it with Geis last year too. But if guys can break through the holes when they play Alabama and get in the end zone 2 or 3 times, I think LSU can finally beat Alabama, which would be a big accomplishment for Ed Orgeron. And I think they'll be able to beat Auburn in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I think it escapes us that until Bama played in the national championship game against Clemson, LSU by far gave them the biggest challenge. No score with about 10 minutes left in the game, and really had a fighting chance to take that one. Unfortunately, you have to travel to Tuscaloosa this year to take on the Tide. And you mentioned Jarrett Stidham, and based on what I saw at Baylor and based on what I saw over the weekend, him hitting some long passes in some tight coverage, yeah, that's a definite upgrade. Nick Marshall was effective in running the triple option offense, but if you're just talking about a guy that can sling it from the pocket, he's going to be the best thing we've seen on the Plains since actually Cam Newton, because Jeremy Johnson didn't work out, and Sean White is definitely a capable player, but not an outstanding skill set in terms of an arm. So the West will be interesting behind Bama. Hopefully somebody can challenge the Tide to make it even more of a race down the stretch. All right, Brandon Eiseman from LSU Breakdown looking at the Tigers. We covered a whole lot of ground here. Brandon, hopefully we can have you back sometime soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for having me on.